to Demigod Debut. I'm Mal, Mrs. O'Leary appreciator and longtime Percy Jackson fan.
And I'm Julie, Percy Jackson newbie.
And this is a podcast about Julie's first time reading The Last Olympian. And we are joined this week by Lilly, a Luke Castellan scholar. Is that what you call yourself?
That's crazy. A Luke Castellan scholar is crazy and would get me canceled on so many levels. But yes, hi!
Yes. So we have been TikTok mutuals for a minute, I think, because I followed you because you've got this flag that says I can fix him.
I do.
It has a big picture of like Charlie Bushnell on it.
I do.
It's incredible.
And people have asked me for tutorials multiple times on how to make it. And I was like, I finally bit the bullet and posted a tutorial on it. I was like, cool, perfect, awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I could fix him, but I like kind of feel like I need the flag.
I could try.
It's just that good.
Right, yeah. I could try and fix him.
Yeah, it might not be successful, but we could try.
It would not be successful, but I could try.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about your Demigod debut, or like how you got introduced to Percy Jackson?
Oh gosh, my parents got divorced when that's a great introduction to that.
That's a great start.
Yep, my parents got divorced, and I was given the Percy Jackson like books as a gift, I guess, like an I feel sorry for you gift. And I was like 11 years old, and my first introduction to Percy Jackson was because my parents got divorced. So I guess shout out to that.
Oh my gosh.
Truly believe that I'm the way I am today because my parents got a divorce. Cute. That's such a great way to start that conversation. So my parents got divorced.
Mommy and daddy issues are at the core of this series, so like it feels right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So we have chapters 5 and 6 this time.
A wild ride.
Chapter 5 is I drive my dog into a tree, and this is the shorter of the two chapters. I imagine we will focus more on the second one. But we left off with Percy heading to the sword fighting arena to go and see an old friend, and so my girl Mrs. O'Leary is back. I have a question for both of you. Do you picture Mrs. O'Leary as being scary?
I honestly have always pictured her as a more tame version of Cerberus, or however you pronounce that. Cerberus?
Yeah.
The one in the dog in the underworld. And since we've gotten a TV show adaptation of it, I don't really picture Mrs. O'Leary as that scary because the adaptation we got literally just looked like a dog with 3 heads.
Yeah.
So I have never really pictured her as too scary looking.
Yeah, I don't think of her as scary. I don't know if it's because, like, the way she was always written about, like, she just sounds like a big puppy. She's just like Clifford. Like, that's how I'm picturing her.
Yes, I was like, this is a Clifford the Big Red Dog situation, except, like, she's not red.
She gives me Snoopy vibes.
Aww, I love Snoopy.
Yeah, like, she's always just written about as, like, she's just this giant dog. And I'm like, am I supposed to be a little bit scared of her because she's a hellhound? But I'm not.
She's very gentle.
I mean, as gentle as a dog the size of a tank can be.
She thinks she's a lapdog. She's one of those big dogs who thinks she's a lapdog.
Yes.
She's like a Great Dane who thinks she can sit on anybody's
Mm-hmm.
lap. I would love to see Mrs. O'Leary attempt to sit on Percy's lap thinking she's a lapdog. That's something that I think needs to be talked about more.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
That dog at least weighs 10 times more than Percy does.
And, you know, of course we have to use our reunion here as an opportunity to, like, get some more Beckendorf angst, because Beckendorf used to take care of Mrs. O'Leary when Percy was gone, and, like, he made her a bronze chewing bone and a little, like, smiley face and crossbones dog tag, which, precious.
So cute. My Shayla, Charles Beckendorf, I love you.
But, okay, also, if Mrs. O'Leary is a hellhound, do we feel like she could just go visit Beckendorf? It feels like if she's an underworld creature, like, she could go to the underworld.
Does she just go say hi?
Yeah, it feels like that could be a thing that happens, yes?
Like, she could just go say hi. I feel like she has that ability because she's from the underworld.
Because I don't know, it doesn't happen till later, but Nico apparently has talked to Beckendorf, so, like, why can't Miss O'Leary visit?
Oh, would love to know what they talked about.
Yeah.
Would love to hear that conversation.
Would love to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Absolutely.
Anyway, then...
Anyway.
Percy takes Mrs. O'Leary for a walk in the woods. They end up in like the clearing that last summer used to be where the Council of Cloven Elders met, and it is dying. And there's also only one of the council members left, and it's Linnaeus. And he just happens to be there with Nico and Juniper, Grover's tree girlfriend.
How convenient.
And Linnaeus is also not a fan of Mrs. O'Leary, so Nico offers to walk her while Linnaeus talks to Percy and Juniper, because Juniper had been asking about Grover when Percy showed up. Linnaeus is really just not helpful at all here. He just keeps insisting that they're better off without Grover since he's a liar and a traitor. Linnaeus also says this isn't their war, so he's going to just continue to do nothing, which is like classic old out-of-touch people in charge.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I'm going to do nothing because it doesn't directly affect me right now, when anyone with a brain could tell you that it will in fact negatively affect you down the line.
If something bad is happening to any sort of marginalized group of people, it is bound to affect you sooner or later, because if one person's affected, the whole system goes down. Like, oh, this is bound to hurt you.
Exactly. I'm a big fan of the way that Percy then, like, grabs Linnaeus by his shirt and tells him that, like, Cronus is going to destroy everything, so it's time to get off your butt and do something.
Lock in.
Because there's a lot of people in power that I wish that I could do that too.
Absolutely. Grab him, shake him, tell him to lock in.
And then Percy also kind of pushes the old goat over, and I don't feel bad about it.
No, I don't either. You kind of earned that one.
And Percy also says, he's like, oh, this isn't like me, but I disagree.
Yeah.
You fought Ares at 12, Percy. Like, you have never had the most calm, cool, and collected head.
Percy, I guarantee you have fought worse people than an old goat man. I can guarantee it's been worse. You've never had the best track record with keeping your calm.
No.
This is unlike me, is it? Is it?
It's not. So, Linnaeus kind of runs off, and Nico comes back, and Nico also doesn't have answers on Grover, because Grover would reincarnate as, like, another natural thing if he was dead, and Nico can't sense that.
Right.
Juniper disappears, leaving Nico and Percy alone, and it's kind of like a little throwaway thing, but it's very interesting, and I didn't realize that it happened until, like, this time I was reading through it, but Nico just, like, summons a little mouse skeleton that runs off into the forest. And we don't...
So interesting.
We don't talk about it further, but I'm like, are little tiny animal skeletons just popping up around Nico wherever he goes?
That's what I want to know. Yeah.
If you had to have a tiny little skeleton animal companion, what animal would you choose?
What animal would I choose? That's a good question. I feel like I should go with something basic and say cat, but something inside of me is begging me to say ferret.
I was thinking ferret.
Because I was like, this would be such an on-brand thing for me, to have a lanky skeleton following me around at all times.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'd say ferret.
Ferret, that's good.
That's like when people ask me like what my patrol list from Harry Potter would be, and I'd be like, yeah, probably a ferret. Probably the most distinct rodent you could think of.
That's kind of iconic.
Pick something odd. Never let them know your next move.
And see, I was thinking like an alligator, but like one of the small ones. Because I think it would be cool.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be cool.
It's my skeleton alligator.
That would be cool. Any sort of like a lizard.
Julie, is your answer also ferret?
I was thinking ferret, but I don't want to take ferret now.
Now she's under pressure.
Yeah. Little baby bunny.
Aww.
Wouldn't that be cute? I was about to be like, Julie's going through the entire zoo to pick out her animal here. You got it.
But a skeleton bunny wouldn't have ears, right? Because they're made of cartilage. So it would be like an earless bunny.
I'm an English major. This is not a me question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I've ruined it now.
Aren't they made of cartilage?
I would assume. I mean, ours are.
No, I'm going to keep thinking of that. Right, because there's no bone in here.
I don't know. Someone who knows more about rabbits, let us know, please.
Sound off in the comments.
Please. Please. Now, that's going to drive me nuts.
This is the hard-hitting questions that we're asking.
Right? Are there bones in rabbit ears? Please.
Google could probably tell us. Are there bones in rabbit ears? No, they do not have bones.
There you go.
Great.
The world's most pressing questions.
Back to Nico. He has had no real luck finding anything else out about his family.
Common Nico D'Angelo experience.
Yeah.
They're sure out of luck, buddy.
Yeah, he says he might have a new lead soon, but he's real vague about it. And he's like, it's not important now. Because Percy knows why he's here. And once again, we reference this plan that really scares Percy, but he hasn't explained what it is to us. But we finally get a little more information because Nico says it's the only way Percy can beat Luke is if he has the same power. Yes. And Percy thinks about how, Riptide just bounced right off of Kronos, and it's finally revealed that the end goal of the plan is to make Percy invincible.
Yay!
Great plan.
Right. Foolproof plan.
Julie, I'm just wondering, has your limited Greek mythology knowledge given you a clue as to what the plan is? Or are you still like, nope?
No, it's like you don't even know me. I'm going into this blind.
She said, I don't know a thing.
Great, that's what I thought.
No.
You're like, invincible? Cool.
Good luck with that.
I don't know. I don't know who that might be, what hero's story we might be kind of repeating.
Give him the same powers? Is Percy also gonna become a Kronos vessel? I don't know.
Well, let's hope not.
And that's actually how the story ends. That's actually what happens. The true ending.
Percy's kind of, non-committal about this plan. And Nico gets pretty angry and he starts doing a lot of manipulation here to get Percy to agree. He brings up the fact that Bianca died for him and he could honor that by doing whatever it takes to stop Kronos. Chill.
Mm-hmm.
Then Percy thinks about the fact that Annabeth called him a coward, which makes him angry. And that's the thing that gets him to finally agree to do it.
Iconic.
Why is it always Annabeth? Annabeth is the only thing that can get Percy to do anything.
You show her you're not a coward.
We have a recurring theme here.
Just the most down bad guy of all time.
He truly is.
And so, step 1 of our game plan is to retrace Luke's steps and find out more about his past. And so Nico has tracked down his mother, who lives in Connecticut. And the way they're going to get there, shadow travel. And it's so wild that this is the first time we're seeing shadow travel, because this is one of the things to me that's just kind of a given now about this universe. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a thing that they could do. And the fact that it doesn't even happen until book 5 is wild.
Yeah.
But it's a very cool power. Underworld creatures, use the shadows to travel because all shadows are part of the same darkness.
Yep.
And I was wondering, I was like, is this something that Rick made up? I mean, traveling with shadows is not unique to Rick Riordan work, but I was like, is there a reference to this in mythology? But I was searching and I couldn't really find anything. When I was Googling, the only thing that was coming up was the Riordan wiki, which is kind of a clue that there's not anything out there. And I also reached out to the one mythology expert in my life, which is Emily of the podcast Monster Donut. And she said she couldn't think of anything either.
Source, Monster Donut.
Yes. Other than in the hymn to Demeter, apparently they pass through shadows to get to the underworld. But I don't know. So I don't think that there's necessarily myth origins for this power. I think it's something that Rick, at the very least, very well defined the powers for this universe, and he came up with that part. So
I think we just have to remember that Percy Jackson originated as a bedtime story.
True.
And it also is pretty much Percy Jackson. I went to a panel at a conference last year about this. Percy Jackson is just Greek mythology fan fiction.
It is.
If you really think about it that way.
Yeah.
It's you can make things up in fan fiction. And I wonder if shadow travel is one of those things.
I mean, it kind of seems like it is.
It's a lot of made up things like iris messaging.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an actual thing you can do.
I know Iris carried messages, but I don't think the actual Iris message is a
demigod FaceTime.
Yeah. So, shadow travel. Percy climbs on Mrs. O'Leary, and she runs straight towards a tree, but before they collide with it, they pass into the shadows, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
I have one final thought here. Because Percy just gets on Mrs. O'Leary, right? And Nico is like, oh yeah, I'll meet you there in Connecticut. And I just think that Percy is putting a lot of trust in a kid who has been acting kind of shady this chapter.
Percy is putting a lot of trust in his biggest op, who has hated him since the Titans curse. Baby, y'all have had beef for 2 years. Why are we trusting him on this?
1.5 years. 1.5 years.
1.5 years. Close to 2 years at this point.
But also, why is Nico not just going with him on Mrs. O'Leary? Like, why are you leaving him to do this on his own? Like, obviously they both make it to Connecticut, but like...
Right, but like, why do we have to go separately? Can't we just go together? One big happy family?
I have questions.
Like, surely it's not that hard. I have a lot of questions. Yeah, we can call Rick up.
This one is a short chapter. Not all that much happens. It's just kind of establishing our mission for the next chapter. Any other thoughts? Chapter 5?
It's not very plot driven. I think the most important part of that chapter is the introduction of shadow travel.
Definitely.
Other than that, common trope of Percy pushing somebody over, common trope of Nico acting suspicious. It pretty much just like combines all of their personality in one chapter.
This is a Percy Jackson chapter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've done it.
We've done it. It's certainly a chapter of Percy Jackson.
All right, so chapter 6 is My Cookies Get Scorched. And so this chapter opens with Percy kind of explaining shadow travel to us, and he says he doesn't recommend it if you're scared of the dark, cold shivers up your spine, strange noises, or going so fast you feel like your face is peeling off.
Awesome. Great description.
Lovely.
Yes, so I'm just wondering, does this sound like something either of you would be into? Like, would you want to shadow travel?
It basically sounds like the Space Mountain ride at Disney World.
Ooh.
Going about 100 miles an hour? Yeah. It just gives me that kind of a vibe.
So that's a yes, then. You would do it.
I'd be down. I'd give it a try. If I hate it, I won't do it again. But I'd try.
That's a good philosophy on life. Julie, would you want to try?
Mal, if you had to guess, we've known each other for how many years? Do you think I would do this?
No, I do not.
I don't even know you very well, but I'm taking it as a no.
Correct.
Like, this is our first interaction, but no.
See, I also am like, I would try it once. The part that is alluring to me is that it seems like it happens very fast. Yes. And like being able to travel quickly. I could deal with a little bit of discomfort in order to get somewhere fast.
Yeah.
Because like it can't be worse than being on an airplane.
Yeah, it really can't. Because like what's the distance between Connecticut and Long Island? Probably a couple 100 miles?
Can't be worse than your like 12-hour train ride, Julie, that you just took this weekend.
Oh, God bless.
But that was in style. I slept all the way home.
Would you sleep through shadow traveling?
If I could, yes.
Pop a Dramamine beforehand, call it a day.
Yeah.
You think that would work for shadow traveling? I don't know.
Like, how alert do you need to be for something like this?
I think the only person that's got to be alert is either Nico or Mrs. O'Leary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Percy could take a little nap.
Percy could take a little nap.
Could Percy have, like, gotten on Nico's back and done it that way? Like a piggyback ride? Would that have worked?
I think yes.
That's a good question.
But can 12-year-old Nico carry almost 16-year-old Percy on his back? That's the question.
And Nico's a tiny little guy. Nico's a twig. I don't know if that would work too well for him.
Maybe they just like hold hands and stand in a circle.
Kumbaya. Call it a day. That's wild.
Yeah. So we arrive in Connecticut post shadow travel. We get another very classic Percy wanting the classic white picket fence life moment.
Yep.
Because he looks down at Luke's house, sees that it has a yard and a swing set, and thinks about how he's only ever lived in dorms and tiny Manhattan apartments, and he kind of wonders why Luke would ever want to leave.
Little do you know.
This is always so funny to me because he did the same thing when he met Annabeth's family. Like, he just saw this nuclear family with 2 parents and went, wow, I can't believe that Annabeth doesn't want to be here. Yeah. Just like then, he's now looking at Luke's house and, like, seeing everything that he didn't have rather than, like, the mess that there is inside, you know?
Absolutely. It's like something looks better from the outside than it does on the inside. Like, when you see, like, picture-perfect families, like, in a magazine or, like, on TV or something, you're like, this is the life I want to live. Then you look inside it, and it's probably more messy than Twitter drama. And that's really saying a lot.
I also I think it's so interesting that Percy doesn't really ever seem to think about the fact that there might be something else going on, like, behind closed doors. When, like, he grew up with Gabe. Like, he's got a wonderful mom, but, like, he had this abusive stepfather for a period of time in his own life. Yeah, why?
Most of his life.
Why does he never think that, like, oh, other people might have stuff like that happening, even though it looks nice from the outside?
Percy, you are not having an original experience.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it comes from, like, him being so sheltered.
Yeah.
Because his life was either from the tiny dorm rooms or camp. He doesn't understand the fact that, like, even if somebody's life is perfect, maybe it's not. Yeah. I think it's just a hard concept for him to grasp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a hard concept for a lot of kids to grasp. You're like,
yeah,
oh, my life has been hard, so, like, other people's lives surely are not as hard as mine.
Yeah, the woe is me mentality. That makes a lot of sense.
Now, I guess it's time to visit the house.
Yeah.
So on the sidewalk, like, leading to the front door, we've got a bunch of little stuffed monsters, and there's a bunch of wind chimes on the porch. And then when they knock, a very clearly unwell woman opens the door. Her hair is sticking up everywhere, her clothes are covered in burn marks, and she somehow thinks both Percy and Nico are Luke. And she invites them in, saying that their lunch is ready. Inside, we've got mirrors and candles everywhere, and Percy notices that there's a picture on the mantle of a young Luke that is identical to Rachel's painting that he saw a couple chapters ago in his dream. So somehow Rachel knew about that picture. Curious.
Very curious.
This house just really feels like something out of, like, a psychological thriller movie to me, because
yes,
all over the kitchen we've got Tupperware boxes full of old peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, many of which are moldy. Percy says it smells like his 6th grade locker. And
oh, that's a great vision right there.
Percy being the kind of kid to bring in a sandwich in September and forget about it until June just feels right.
Oh,
it does. It really does.
He definitely, for the, like, 6th grade science fair, was like, what am I gonna do? Then found the moldy sandwich in his locker and was like, oh, heck yeah. I've been doing this science experiment all year.
Absolutely.
That's so disgusting.
Like, I've been working on this one.
Ugh.
That's so gross. Yeah, no, I think one really, like, key detail to point out is where it says that, like, Percy literally was like, there are, like, hundreds of Tupperware containers here filled with moldy sandwiches. Like, girl, do you leave your house and go to the grocery store and keep buying more bread?
That's so true. Where are the materials for the sandwiches?
Can you imagine seeing someone like her at the grocery store, just, like, walking around, hair sticking up, muttering prophetic visions? It's like, hey, girl, hey.
Gosh.
Checking her out at the grocery store, just, like, telling the cashier. That's like, oh, you look just like my son. God. Yeah? Right.
Oh.
Nurse, she's up again.
I was feeling really sad, and then you made a joke, and now it's fun again. Okay.
I was like, I wonder if somebody has, like, actually, like, called the police. Like, hey,
sure.
There's a lady running around talking about her son missing. Y'all know anything about this? Somebody please call a wellness check on May Castellan.
I don't know. I'm thinking about when I see someone, like, on the streets of New York who is clearly unwell, I'm kind of like, I'm going to avoid eye contact because I don't know what this person is going to do. So
yes.
I feel like it's probably that kind of situation. And, like, we don't have the best resources in this country for mental health and, like,
no, we don't. I agree.
Supporting people who are struggling. So honestly, I would imagine that most people are just looking the other way, like, if they see her.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but
which is sad.
Is true.
It's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Now I'm just gonna keep wondering, where does she get, like, her bread and everything from? Does she just go out?
Well, she says Hermes visits, yeah, so
does Hermes bring it over? She never leaves the house. Hermes just shows up with, like, carts full of bread.
She's ordering a lot of Instacart. Is that the one that'll bring you your food?
She's Instacarting her bread to the house. I would hate to be that driver, be like, well, she's ordered her bread again. 3rd time this week.
Right. I wonder if there's ever a situation where she, like, forgets that she's ordered bread and then makes a second order, and then the, like, drivers meet up at the house
with the bread.
And it's like, you have bread, I have bread. Crazy.
He's like, hey, twin. That's crazy. You think Hermes pays for her Instacart subscription?
Yeah, that's the other thing. I'm like, who's funding all these sandwiches?
Where's her money at? Does she have a job? Does she have, like, trust fund? How are we paying for the bread?
Maybe there was some kind of settlement that happened after whatever, went wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
After whatever sent May into a downward spiral.
There are questions.
There are lots of questions.
And besides the sandwiches, we also have stacked on the oven our titular scorched cookies.
Would love to know where the resources for that came from.
Yes. Maybe also Instacart.
Too many groceries.
Yeah, we've got more of them burning in the oven as well. She also has a bunch of pictures of Hermes from like various ads and logos just kind of pasted everywhere.
The vision of going into this crazy woman's house and there are just various pictures of Lin-Manuel Miranda hanging up on her wall. If she wasn't crazy before, I think she's crazy now. I'd be going the other way.
You know, when I'm reading like later books in the series, I just like forget that it's Lin-Manuel Miranda in the show.
I just think that's the most iconic thing because one of the most tragic stories to come out of Percy Jackson is run by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Julie, did you know that? You knew that.
No.
I've talked about that.
Like what? Like in this modern universe, does she like instead of having pictures, does she just have the 2.5-hour Proshot of Hamilton playing on her TV at all times? Deliver the groceries, you can just hear the music booming from inside. May Castellan opens the door, green eyes blaring. Set the groceries down and run the other way. Nope. If she wasn't crazy before, she's crazy now.
You know, I felt a little crazy the day that Lin-Manuel Miranda was announced as Hermes.
I was like, there's no way.
Because it was like, I wouldn't even say it was a negative reaction per se. It was just a like, oh, okay.
Negative reaction would be warranted.
The Lin-Manuel Miranda hate is crazy.
It was like, huh, great. So.
What an interesting cast.
And you know what? He did a great job. Despite all the sandwiches that we already have, May Castellan just starts making them more sandwiches because, of course.
Oh, yes.
And this chapter is just, it's hard to read because they start trying to ask her questions about Luke, and it's just, she just keeps thinking that they're Luke, and it hurts.
It does.
One of the parts that always gets me is her going, like, he was so young when he left 3rd grade. That's too young to run away. He said he'd be back for lunch, and I waited. He likes peanut butter sandwiches and cookies and Kool-Aid. He'll be back for lunch very soon. That was 13 years ago. This woman has just been... She's been making him lunch for 13 years while he was off becoming evil.
I was going to say, by that point, it's been over a decade. And it's just so sad. And I feel like getting this glimpse as well, like, not only makes you feel sorry for May, but it also makes you feel a little bit sorry for Luke.
For sure.
And, like, having the crazy mother. I feel like one argument that I've always made because of this chapter is I feel like Luke's life could have been entirely different if he had a mother like Sally versus a mother like May.
Oh, 100%.
And I just think that's such an important detail that so many people forget. Because, like, the two of them, like, Luke and Percy are perfect character foils, sure. But we also forget that, like, May and Sally are perfect character foils as well. Like, the insane mother versus her, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think part of what makes them character foils is, you know, the women who kind of raised and made them who they are. So, yeah, I think, you know, the differences in their moms, and then also the differences in their arrivals to camp is always what I look at.
Oh, absolutely.
The differences and the similarities, because their arrival to camp, they mirror each other, you know? Like, they both lost...
Yep, they both lost someone they loved.
Yeah, they both lost kind of the North Star female figure in their life.
Absolutely.
And then the big difference is Percy got his back, whereas, I mean, Luke did eventually get Thalia back, but it took much longer, and it took
a long time, yeah,
kind of the downfall into the world of Kronos for him to get there. So yeah, I mean, they parallels, and
I always say they're like
so
two sides of the same coin. That's like the best way for me to look at it. Like my presentation that I'm doing at the conference that I'm at tomorrow is titled Percy and Luke, Two Sides of the Same Drachma.
That's good. That's a good title.
I know. It's like they're like perfect foils. And you see that, not to mention Rob, but like you see that in the musical as well with Good Kid in The Last Day of Summer.
That little reprise of Good Kid.
And
so
I think it's so interesting because it's the same melody, just different words, and Luke's is slightly pitched higher. I think that's very interesting, like symbolizing that like slow descent into madness. The music theater kid in me is coming out.
Good. Love it. God, I don't even know what we were talking about. Oh yeah, she's been making lunch for Luke for 13 years. Let's just go back and sit with that for a minute, because
yeah, a moment of silence for that, because the house would be filled with sandwiches.
It's like, what was I doing 13 years ago? I was
in the 2nd grade 13 years ago.
Oh boy.
Oh my word.
Oh boy. And
I'm graduating with a bachelor's.
I'm old. So I was in probably 8th grade, or I was a freshman 13 years ago.
Ugh.
Yeah. That's so crazy to think about. 13 years is a long time.
13 years
when
is
you
a
sit with
long
that.
time.
Walker Scobell was 13 years old when they started filming Percy Jackson. That was that kid's entire life spent
oh my
making
gosh. 13 years ago was 2012.
That's insane to think about. 13 years ago, One Direction was still a band. We're all living as well.
R.I.P. One Direction.
Rest in peace, One Direction. Rest in peace, Liam.
Yeah, Julie was a Liam girl, so that was a big blow.
Moment of silence for Luke Castellan and Liam Payne. The 2 L's in this situation.
I'm just remembering that unhinged voice note I sent you when I found out the news.
Please insert a clip of that somewhere.
God, I probably don't even still have that.
No!
Did I save that?
She's like, no, I got
That's important, actually.
That's an important
detail. Did I save that? We probably text too often for me to be able to find that.
You'd have to just search up Liam in the messages. Bless his heart.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
My God, I feel like I've been scrolling forever and I'm not even to January, so...
That was in October.
That was in October, you're right.
13th, maybe?
She's like, I've got the exact date.
Well, I had a fancy dinner to go to right after that.
Oh,
I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm freaking out.
I would start tweaking. I'd have to go home. I'd be like, there's no dinner.
Sorry, there's a death in the family. I have to go.
I had people that I haven't probably spoken to in 13 years reaching out to me because I was the One Direction girl in high school. And they were like, hey, saw the news, thinking of you. I was like, great. This is my brand. Okay, we're back to November. I'm gonna get all this way, and then there's gonna be
it's not gonna be there.
I'm not gonna have saved it.
That's so funny.
I have scrolled past so many things about Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh, amen. I mean,
I just want you to know that, Julie.
I can't help it. I love her so much.
I think I've loved Sabrina Carpenter for as long as May Castellan has been baking cookies.
Gosh.
She's just so adorable.
She is. She's the cutest.
Oh, it was also postseason baseball at the same time.
So it was a wild October.
She said I was going through it.
No, I don't have the voice note.
No!
I have the tweet that you sent me from Good Morning America.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you called me, and then I didn't answer, and so you sent me the voice note.
I was literally sitting in the parking lot of the restaurant, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I have to go sit at this fancy dinner.
What does one do in that situation?
And then we went back and forth for a couple days. It was half really sad things about Liam, and then half complaining about baseball.
Yeah.
The duality of woman.
What a time this past October was.
Girlhood is a spectrum.
Truly.
Girlhood is a spectrum between baseball and One Direction. That's it. 13 years ago. Remember when we thought the world was going to end in 2012?
If only, man.
If only. If the world ended in 2012, we would have never gotten the Percy Jackson TV adaptation.
But we would have gotten the movie, and
And unfortunately, that would have been all we had to live with.
Okay. Anyway.
I fear we've lost the plot.
We have lost the plot.
Yeah, I don't even know what's going on anymore.
I guess we're gonna have to sit with it again. We've been baking sandwiches for 13 years. And so it's not funny.
Papa's Pizzeria up in here.
Okay. So
lock in.
Nico asks, what happened to her. And she said she'd always been special. She'd been able to see through the mist, and so she was offered a special job. And apparently Hermes warned her not to even try, but it was her destiny. And so now here she is with images she can't get out of her head. that make everything seem fuzzy. Percy asks if she's seen Luke since he left. She says she did, and he looked different with a terrible scar, but he didn't have gold eyes yet. And he was there to ask for her blessing. And so this seems to be what Nico is looking for. So they go to leave, but then Miss Castellan's eyes start glowing, and she says, and I quote, "Must protect him. Hermes help. Not my child. Not his fate. No." And then she's mostly back to normal.
Which I think would have been a terrifying thing to live with as a 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Luke Castellan.
For sure.
I feel like growing up with a mom, like, screaming about your fate.
Yeah.
And, like, looking like she's been possessed by something would be enough to, like, send somebody into madness of their own. Just out of pure, like, traumatic response.
And the way that Percy and Nico are also, like, desperate to leave. I mean, they're older than Luke was. And so they do, you know, kind of make a move to leave. But not before we get one more really heartbreaking moment where May Castellan grabs Percy's wrist, calls him Luke again, and makes him promise to be safe. And he responds with, "I will, Mom." And that just always gets me.
That just wrecks me.
Oh.
This just wrecks me because I know Percy just wanted to give her that little, like, bit of closure.
God.
Even if it wasn't closure from Luke, it was still closure nonetheless.
Because, you know, she thinks it's from Luke.
Right. Which I'm sure made her feel a lot better.
I don't know. Julie, what were your thoughts on this whole situation as someone experiencing it for the first time?
I don't know. Like, the mom, I don't know. Like, I felt, like, really bad for the mom, but she, like, freaked me out a lot. I have to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, very creepy.
If you're freaked out about that at, like, how old are you?
It was her birthday yesterday.
I just turned 27.
Oh my god, happy late birthday! So if you're freaked out at that at 27, imagine how scared you must, like, a 9-year-old would have been.
Very true.
Like, if you're that unsettled with, like, a fully developed frontal lobe, a 9-year-old would probably tweak out.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's heavy to think about.
Listen, we can get Luke's sad, tragic backstory and still be kind of like, hey, not really cool that you killed our friend Beckendorf, you know? So
right? Like, right intentions,
right.
Wrong method kind of guy.
Right. And I think that's, you know.
And especially, like, the thing that I think about the most is, like, if it wasn't Luke, it probably would have been Percy.
I think maybe. I think there would have to be a lot that changes in Percy's life to make Percy very different than the person that he turned out to be in order to get him in the same place.
Annabeth and Sally are really his anchors. Yeah. If there was no Annabeth and if there was no Sally, because it's noted that, like, Percy has both Annabeth and Sally. Luke lost Thalia and May. So it's, like, those two prime, like, examples of, like, love and loyalty were very skewed in Luke's life. While Percy had, like, this picture-perfect, like, mother, picture-perfect, like, girl situationship, if you will.
I don't know that I've ever heard the words picture-perfect situationship put together like that.
Picture-perfect delusionship. That really just sums up Percy and Annabeth as a whole.
I love that.
Picture-perfect situationship. Girl, get me there. Free me from the trenches.
I hate how perfect that is for Percy and Annabeth.
Yeah, that just describes them so well. Like, they're so cute together. They argue like an old married couple, but they're so cute together. Crazy. Wild work.
So, leaving May Castellan's house. We are outside now, away from spooky, glowing eyes.
Away from sandwiches that probably emit gas the same color as her eyes at that point in molding.
Sandwiches. Yeah, I was like, sandwiches that are also green. So outside, there is an 8-year-old girl scratching Mrs. O'Leary's ears and tending to the fire. And Percy's immediate thought is to attack, but Nico bows and calls her lady, so Percy's like, safest thing to do is probably also bow.
First thought, fight. Common Percy Jackson experience.
I mean, you know, it's worked this far. He's lived this long.
This is true. This is true.
So she makes them a little picnic. Percy scrapes part of his food into the fire, as one does, and the girl thanks him, saying that since she's the one who tends the flames, she gets some of each sacrifice.
Aww.
And Percy then recognizes her as the young girl that he saw tending to the fire when he first got to camp. And Julie, you don't remember this, I can guarantee it, but
Oh.
and I didn't remember this either, but I like went back
Mm-hmm.
and read the transcripts for our early episodes for some reason. I can't remember why I was doing that, but I was. And you pointed out in like our second episode, you were like, there's like a 9-year-old messing with the fire, and you were talking about calling CPS.
Calling Child Protective Services on a Greek goddess is insane.
Yeah, how does it feel to know that you wanted to call CPS for a Greek goddess?
How would you explain that to CPS? Hey, there's an immortal 9-year-old trying to mess with this fire. Help.
Listen, I save the children, okay? You have to protect the children.
Save the children. It doesn't matter if they're a 2,000-year-old goddess, save the children.
Save the children, but not in a conservative way, you know?
Yes.
We want to be very clear about that.
Well, yes. Save the children in a Greek mythology way.
We're not trying to save the children from, like, the gay agenda, you know?
No, I want them to be force-fed the gay agenda. In my America, the gay agenda is mandatory.
You read it in school.
Mm-hmm. Pledge of Allegiance to the pride flag. Thank you.
Thank you.
The gay agenda is actually reading Percy Jackson. So, the goddess is Hestia. I don't know if we ever said Hestia. She's Hestia.
Love her.
She is not with all the other gods fighting because it is her job to keep the home fires burning. And this is what I would want to be my job in the war. Like, it's very much giving the wives who stay at home and are lesbians while their husbands are away, you know?
She's giving housewife. And I love that for her.
It's like, we're gonna keep the home fires burning, and we're gonna maybe kiss a little the other wives of the army men.
It's not cheating if it's gay.
Exactly. Also, I would very much enjoy being able to just stay at home from the war and play with fire. You know I love to play with fire.
We love that, honestly. Yeah, my war job is to light the candle, lay in bed, drink a Celsius, and y'all can go fight everybody. I'll be happy from the comfort of my home.
Julie has taken so many candles from me at restaurant because I start playing in them.
Cannot be twisted.
That's so fair.
It's also good that Hestia is here because she kind of helps them unpack the visit that they just had with Luke's mom.
Absolutely.
And so she kind of rehashes / confirms like what May already told them, that she could see through the mist. She got the attention of Hermes and had a baby, and then she went too far. And Percy asks what happened, but Hestia says she doesn't like to tell that story, but tells Percy that in order to understand his enemy Luke, he needs to understand his family. But how's he supposed to understand Luke's family if she can't tell him what happened to his mom?
No, literally.
I know we're, like, trying to build suspense and, like, foreshadow things, but, like, drives me crazy.
Maybe just, like, mention
the character's
it.
Like, I can't tell you.
Yeah. I know, but I can't tell you. Great. Thanks.
So helpful.
What am I supposed to do with that info?
Helpful.
Love that.
And so Percy really is starting to empathize with Luke and kind of understand why he ran away. You know, he was stuck in the house with a mom like that, with a dad that never visited. And
we got patient zero over here. Stuck in the house. Crazy lady.
I do think, like, humanizing Luke and understanding his motivations is important.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't examine, like, why someone like Luke is able to be pushed this far, then, like, you can't address the issues that, like, caused it and stop it from happening again, you know? So, like, you gotta...
I mean, you can look at any fictional villain like this. I don't want to, like, bring in another franchise, but, like, if you look at the Saw movies, you have to understand, like, why Jigsaw ended up the way he did to understand, like, the character as a whole.
I am unfamiliar with the lore of the Saw movies.
That's okay, but, like, they have an entire movie, like, dedicated to, like, Jigsaw's backstory, and I guess, like, to help you, like, humanize the villain.
I've seen, like, one Saw movie.
I love the Saw movies. And it's just, like, a prime example of, like, you really need to dig into, like, a villain's character and a backstory of a villain. You can't just be like, this is a horrible person and I have no evidence why as to, like, just, like, the things he's doing. You need to have that justification, that you need to have that understanding of his family life to be able to fully make an assumption about a character. And I think that's, like, when we got Annabeth's backstory, I feel like you couldn't understand why Annabeth was the way she was unless you had that backstory about her father, about everything like that.
And I mean, I think, you know, like we've already said, if Percy and Luke are parallels, two sides of the same coin, like it's also important for Percy to see where Luke went wrong so that he doesn't also go down that same path.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. And that's why I've really liked studying Luke's character, is because, like, it humanizes a villain.
And speaking on it at conferences, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's just, like, it's a very, like, niche interest. but I don't know. Like, humanizing the villain gives you the ability to see from both sides and in turn make your own decisions about a character instead of just relying on the narrator. And that's why I can somewhat see both sides of both Percy and Luke's characters. Yeah. It's fun to research.
So then Hestia asks if Percy plans on seeking the same powers as Luke and offers him the advice that not all powers are spectacular and sometimes the hardest power to master is the power of yielding.
Yep.
And she also tells him when all else fails, she is what is left. Home. She is the titular last Olympian, and he should remember that when he faces his final decision.
What an ironic thing, leaving a house that doesn't seem like a home to meet the goddess of the hearth and home. What an ironic place to find Hestia.
I mean, even an unhappy home is still a home.
Yeah.
Speaking of homes, the next thing that she does is send him to his own hearth. And she tells him, first that they will meet again on Olympus. And Percy kind of notes that it does not sound like it will be a happy meeting. And then all of a sudden, he is at home in his mom's apartment.
Yay!
But unfortunately, Mrs. O'Leary is also in
his mom's apartment.
That's something that I really appreciate about these books. The way that we go from, the most heartbreaking scene with May Castellan to, a very serious moment with Hestia to now, oh my god, my parents are trapped in their bedroom by a giant dog.
You're in a New York City apartment with a dog that's probably the size of half of the apartment. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
The irony of that is so funny.
I mean, I think Mrs. O'Leary takes up most of the apartment.
She does. Especially, thinking of the size of, a shoebox apartment in New York City. Squishing that dog in there is...
Yes, I'm very familiar.
The comedy of, squishing that dog in there. I love how Rick can balance, tragedy and comedy. It's hey, here's Luke's incredibly traumatic and terrifying backstory. Anyways, here's a dog shoved in an apartment. It's oh, perfect.
It's we're getting a little too serious here. Here's something silly.
Right? Just we have to laugh.
Because, it's gonna get a little serious again later, but we're having some comic relief. We're having a moment.
Right, and we love that.
Yeah, so we managed to kind of navigate everyone into the kitchen. Mrs. O'Leary is taking up most of the living room, but she's got her head peeking into the doorway.
Cute.
And also, it is stated that Sally just tosses her a 5-pound pack of ground beef, and I just want to know why Sally has that much ground beef. Who is she cooking for?
Taco night. White people taco night.
You get the taco shells from the grocery store and ground beef from the grocery store. Yeah.
Ground beef, taco seasoning. What a great night.
There's 3 of them. You don't need 5 pounds of taco meat.
She's saving up for the apocalypse. Judging by the time frame of the book, she also thought the world was going to end in 2012.
She's the end is coming. And this is also the first time that Paul believes them and what they've said about monsters and demigods, which is so wild. This man fully married Sally, half believing that the Jacksons were crazy.
Which is wild. Crazy work. Insane work.
Okay.
All right.
He was she might be crazy, but I'm gonna lock it down because she's a queen among women.
Right. Marry the queen among women no matter how crazy she is. You may think she's insane? Cool. Perfect. Marry her anyways.
He's also, he's taking the hellhound to the living room much better than expected. And I do want... Can he actually see Mrs. O'Leary, or is the mist making her look like something else?
That's what I want to know. Does she just look like a giant German Shepherd or something?
Yeah.
Because that would be scary in and of itself. Now I need to know. Is she actually visible as a hellhound? Can Paul see through the mist a little bit? Can Sally? I think Sally can.
Sally definitely can. But it does make me wonder, if someone is aware of the world of God of Monsters, can they, learn to see through the mist?
Can you, train yourself to see through the mist? That is very interesting. Come back next week when we have Rick Riordan on the podcast. Asking him the world's most burning questions.
I would not even know where to start. And I would be so not normal.
First question, how dare you?
First question, shadow travel. Second question, how did May Castellan get all that food?
All the really important stuff.
Asking the burning important questions, right?
Okay, so Percy has to fill them in on everything, including the imminent battle and this plan that they have to make him invincible. And This plan, requires Sally's blessing, and she does not want to give it. She thinks the plan is too dangerous, even by Percy's standards. But it's Paul who eventually gets through to her by saying, it sounds like Percy's being really noble, and he wishes he had that much courage.
Yeah.
We love Paul.
We love Paul. Paul understands as much as a guy can.
He's so good for Sally, and he's so good for Percy, too, because Percy's like, I almost cried hearing that compliment.
Right? It's like, because Percy never had, like, a good father figure.
Someone say nice things to Percy.
Poseidon was not an active father figure. Gabe was god-awful. And now he has Paul, who just, like, actually treats him like a human being instead of a burden. Yeah.
And we love that. Sally does eventually give Percy her blessing, and she asks him to send her a sign if he survives the fight with Kronos.
Just so sweet.
She says something blue that can be seen from anywhere in Manhattan, like a flag or a flare from the Empire State Building.
So sweet.
And I'm kind of just wondering what kind of flag she thinks you could see from anywhere in Manhattan. Like a flare, maybe, but
what kind of vision does she have?
We're very much overestimating the height of the Empire State Building. Like, there are so many tall buildings in the way. She wouldn't be able to see a flag from her apartment.
No, she absolutely wouldn't.
Probably not a flag.
Yeah, logically, not a flag.
Yeah, but anyway, Percy hugs his mom, and he shakes hands with Paul because they're men, and men don't hug, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Percy literally says he's trying not to feel like this is goodbye. Like, he's leaving, thinking this might be the last time he's gonna see them. And he can't even hug his stepdad. Like, he has to shake his hand.
Right? Like, you can't just hug your stepdad goodbye. Like, where? Come on now.
Let men hug. Let men hug.
No, literally. Let men hug.
So, last little bit here. Good news is we can go to the underworld without going all the way to Los Angeles, because there is apparently a closer entrance, according to Nico, which... Why the heck did we have to go all the way to LA in the first book?
I don't know. That's a Rick question.
For the drama of it all.
Right. Makes for an interesting story.
And that's these 2 chapters. Any other thoughts? Julie, you got anything else?
Very suspicious of Nico now.
I've always been very suspicious of Nico.
He was very weird these last 2 chapters.
What an odd guy.
What an interesting guy, Nico D'Angelo.
Nico D'Angelo, my Shayla. What an interesting guy.
Okay, would you like to make some predictions for chapters 7 and 8?
Yeah, they're not very good. Morning,
That's okay.
Make your predictions.
Okay, so chapter 7, my math. Well, this is the British version, so they have my maths teacher gives me a lift. Only annoys me a little bit. The only thing I could think of was, what was this teacher in the first book who like tried to kill him?
Mrs.
Was she a math teacher or no?
She was. She was his pre-algebra teacher.
Okay.
Yes, because it was, I accidentally vaporized my pre-algebra teacher.
That is who I think she makes a return.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
And then chapter 8, I take the worst bath ever. Some kind of magical bath that Percy takes to get his powers that he needs. That's what I got.
Some kind of magical hot tub situation.
Oh, hot tub would be so nice.
Magical hot tub.
I would love to be in a hot tub right now.
Great.
It's 13 degrees here.
It's
do it.
25 here, so.
I'm in New Mexico, so it's like 50 degrees. So I'm chilling.
That's nice.
Warm.
All right.
Good predictions.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's all she wrote.
Great. Love it.
Great.
Well, Lily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, do you want to plug your social media? Tell the people where to find you.
You can find me on TikTok at Annabeth Chase Lover. Lover is spelled L-U-V-R. And you can watch my entire experience of Guys and Dolls. And you can also watch me post whatever I post on TikTok. Yeah, no. I post too much on TikTok. My Instagram, I don't remember how many E's are in my Instagram handle. So I could not tell you.
It's alright, I'll link it in the episode description.
Right? Peace and love.
Glad to have a real-life Luke Castellan scholar.
Sure. Put it that way.
Good luck with your conference.
Thank you so much.
Talking about your foils.
Bye, divas.
Later.
Bye.
Hi, You can find us on social media at DemigodDebutPod. You can also find links to all of our socials in the episode description. If you enjoy consuming this podcast, consider leaving us a rating or review wherever it is that you are listening. See you next time for chapters 7 and 8. Bye!